Let's move on to Princess Kate's mother, otherwise known as Super Granny. Carole Middleton is featured in this week's issue of People magazine. And as a grandma to royal babies, she is completely hands-on. There has been much tension in Buckingham Palace of late. Two strong women, Carole Middleton, Kate's protective mother, and Queen Camilla, who never fully accepted the Middletons, have been engaged in a cold war. Though they smile in public, insiders claim Camilla has been working hard to weaken Carole's influence. But Carole has had enough and finally speaks out. What did she expose? Could this change the royal family forever? Join us as we uncover what Carole Middleton did that left Queen Camilla in tears. The explosive revelation. When Carole Middleton entered Buckingham Palace on that cold February morning, no one knew she was about to change the royal family forever. For years, the mother of future Queen Kate stayed silent about how she was treated inside the palace. But on this day, everything was different. Had had enough. Usually calm and quiet, Carole stood before a room full of shocked royal officials. She wore a simple navy suit and spoke in a firm but steady voice. Then she revealed details about Queen Camilla's secret financial dealings, plans that went far beyond normal royal investments. Carole stated that Queen Camilla had been moving large amounts of money through secret bank accounts. These were not small sums. They were millions of pounds. She explained how Camilla used strategies to avoid paying taxes and how the money was hidden in different shell companies. With every word, the room grew more tense. Queen Camilla, known for her calm and royal grace since marrying King Charles, sat still in her chair. Her face, always carefully controlled, turned pale. For the first time in her royal life, she looked truly shocked. Carole shared clear and detailed proof, dates, account numbers, and the names of banks. She talked about secret meetings in Swiss banks and late-night calls to financial experts. Her details were so exact that no one could claim she was just guessing. The claims were serious, as they involved royal money, a very sensitive issue in recent years. People had already questioned how the royal family handled their wealth. Carole's words could destroy years of careful financial management and break the public's trust. Palace workers hurried to act, secretaries rushed in and out of rooms, phones rang non-stop, and urgent meetings were held. Staying silent was not an option this time. The claims were too serious to ignore. News spread quickly outside the palace. Within hours, financial experts began investigating the claims. Lawyers spoke on TV about what could happen next. The story was in every newspaper in Britain and beyond. Carole's words were powerful not just because of the financial accusations but because of the people involved. She claimed that Camilla used this secret money to control many royal matters, including key decisions about Kate and William's family. Carole explained how Camilla used her financial power to push the Middletons away from important royal events. She mentioned charities where funds were mismanaged and how concerns about these issues were ignored. In Britain, where royal news is always a hot topic, opinions were divided. Some admired Carole for speaking up, while others believed she was harming the royal family. Social media was flooded with discussions, debates, and arguments. The royal family typically resolved problems in private, but this time was different. They could not stay silent and wait for the news to fade. Carole had shared too many specific details, making it impossible to ignore. As the day progressed, the shock turned into a race to contain the crisis. Royal advisors held urgent meetings, searching for the right words to calm the public while protecting the royal family's reputation. Queen Camilla stayed out of sight in the following days. Insiders reported that she was deeply upset not just by the accusations but by how detailed Carole's claims were. The strong public image she had built over many years seemed to crumble overnight. Despite pressure and criticism, Carole did not back down. She refused to retract her words. Each day, she became more determined, saying she had witnessed troubling things within the royal family for years. The palace was now in deep trouble. This was not just bad press, it was a serious scandal that could shake public trust in the monarchy. As the story unfolded, one thing was certain: the British royal family would never be the same again. How did these two strong women reach this breaking point? What happened over a decade of forced smiles and polite nods that made Carole Middleton finally speak out against Queen Camilla? A decade of tension. The issues began even before Kate and William's wedding in 2011. At royal events, Carole Middleton and Camilla, then still Duchess of Cornwall, would smile and greet each other, posing together in family photographs. But beneath the surface, tensions were brewing. Carole, a former flight attendant, had built a successful party business from scratch. She worked hard to provide her children with a good life, sending Kate to top schools and supporting her through university. However, within the palace, where tradition reigned supreme, some resented Carole's success. When Kate first started dating William, Carole noticed subtle shifts in how she was treated at royal gatherings. Some people were kind, but others ignored her. She later described it as the aristocratic freeze way of looking past someone as if they did not exist. Camilla, born into nobility, easily adapted to royal life. She understood the unspoken rules and the expectations of the aristocracy. Those close to the family said she often spoke about good breeding and knowing one's place. The tension became more apparent while planning the wedding. Carole had ideas for incorporating simple family traditions alongside royal customs, but many of her suggestions were dismissed or ignored. Insiders reported heated disagreements over guest lists and floral decorations. After the wedding, Carole noticed that Camilla gradually gained more control over Kate's royal duties. Event plans changed, making it harder for the Middletons to spend time with their daughter. Christmas, once a cherished family holiday, became a source of conflict as the palace insisted on strict royal traditions. Privately, Carole saw the toll this took on Kate. In public, Kate always appeared composed and graceful, but behind closed doors, the stress weighed on her. She was caught between upholding royal expectations and staying close to her family. When Prince George was born in 2013, new challenges emerged. Carole, having raised 3 children, wanted to be involved as a grandmother. However, royal protocol allegedly reinforced by Camilla restricted her access. The palace assigned royal nannies and structured a strict schedule, leaving little room for Carole's involvement. By early 2024, their relationship had deteriorated completely. At Prince Louis's school concert, Carole and Camilla barely acknowledged each other. Years of forced politeness had finally given way to visible hostility. What had started as a class-based divide had transformed into a battle for power and influence within the royal family. Carole, tired of being sidelined for years, could no longer remain silent. And so, she revealed the secrets that shook the country and left the palace scrambling for answers. With everything now exposed, the royal family faced its greatest challenge yet. Would the monarchy survive Carole Middleton's revelations? And how would they manage this unprecedented crisis? They worked tirelessly, poring over old royal regulations in search of guidance. Yet, no previous case in the palace records had been as severe as this one. The team needed additional support, so they established a special office in St. James's Palace, filling it with documents, phones, and computers directly linked to London's top law firms. Hour by hour, new reports arrived, and lawyers scrambled to devise a strategy that could shield the monarchy from further damage. The crisis extended beyond the palace walls. Tourists began canceling their trips, affecting businesses reliant on visitors. Companies that supplied goods to the royal family saw their stock prices drop. Even the Buckingham Palace gift shop experienced a decline in customers as public sentiment towards the monarchy shifted. King Charles was at a crossroads. As monarch, he was responsible for protecting the royal family. As Camilla's husband, he wanted to stand by her. As William's father, he recognized the urgent need for change. Private letters exchanged between Charles and his sister, Princess Anne, revealed his deep concern about what lay ahead. The crisis even reached Parliament, where questions arose about royal finances and responsibilities. Some leaders demanded greater transparency in the palace's expenditures, while others proposed new regulations to modernize the monarchy. The government, which typically supported the royal institution, remained silent. Newspapers that had long been allies of the palace began shifting their tone, publishing headlines that questioned the royal family's future. TV analysts who once praised Camilla now speculated whether she was the right choice for queen. The scandal forced the palace to consider long-avoided change, reforming outdated rules, increasing financial transparency, and granting younger royals more influence. Some even proposed creating a family council where both royal and non-royal relatives could share their opinions equally. After a month, the royal family faced a pivotal decision: adapt to maintain public trust or risk losing it forever. The monarchy, an institution that had shaped British life for centuries, stood at a turning point. As the palace worked to contain the crisis, Queen Camilla's world crumbled. How did the woman who had spent years securing her place at the top of the royal family suddenly find herself isolated? Camilla's fall from grace became evident on a quiet Tuesday morning. During breakfast, her usual place at the palace dining room sat empty. Staff who once rushed to serve her now kept their distance. Even her closest friend of 30 years unexpectedly took a prolonged leave of absence. Camilla's once busy schedule emptied. Charities began requesting the presence of other royals instead of her. Invitations to garden parties vanished. Even her cherished horse show, where she had been an honored guest for 15 years, subtly suggested she take a break. Her wealthy friends withdrew as well. Weekend gatherings in countryside estates no longer included her. Women who once vied for a seat beside her at luncheon suddenly had other commitments. The phone, once buzzing with messages from friends, fell silent. Within the palace, Camilla was treated differently. The staff remained courteous but lacked their usual warmth. Her favorite chef left for another royal household. Her personal secretary requested a transfer to Princess Anne's office. Even her driver of 12 years abruptly decided to retire. The public took notice of subtle but painful changes. At a charity event, Camilla saw photographers avert their lenses. Crowds that once cheered her presence now remained subdued. One morning, she noticed her official portrait had disappeared from the palace gift shop, replaced by images of Kate and the royal children. Each day, she felt increasingly isolated. Staff whispered that they heard her pacing her rooms late at night. She stopped dining with the family, preferring solitude. Her cherished horseback rides became lonely as her usual companions found excuses to be elsewhere. Even her marriage to King Charles suffered. Though he continued to support her in public, their private interactions grew cold. They began sleeping in separate rooms. Their morning tea meetings became brief and impersonal. Charles attended events alone more frequently. The press turned against Camilla. Newspapers unearthed past scandals with fresh details. Former staff came forward with stories of her temper and demanding nature. Each day brought another wave of negative headlines. Even her children, Tom and Laura, felt the fallout. Tom lost his food column in a major newspaper, while Laura's art gallery lost key patrons. The scandal affected not just Camilla, but everyone connected to her. Christmas further highlighted her decline. In the annual royal family photograph, Camilla stood at the periphery, barely visible. At the holiday dinner, she was no longer seated at the center but at the far end of the table. Her grandchildren spent Christmas with their other grandmother. By early 2025, Camilla rarely left her rooms. Her royal duties had all but ceased. The palace issued a statement claiming she was taking time for personal matters, but few believed it. Her absence from major royal events spoke louder than any official explanation. Then came the ultimate blow as preparations for a grand state dinner were underway. Her throne was quietly removed from beside the king's. When she inquired about the decision, a royal official simply replied, "Protocol changes." The message was clear. Her role as queen consort had become merely symbolic. Camilla had spent years fighting for acceptance within the royal family, but in a matter of months, her reputation had crumbled. Now, in the quiet of the palace, staff whispered that she spent hours gazing at old photographs, reminiscing about a time when she held true power. The queen who had struggled to secure her place now faced her greatest fear: being forgotten. As Camilla faded from royal life, all eyes turned to Kate Middleton. Could the once criticized woman from Berkshire, dismissed for her lack of royal lineage, now be the key to saving the British monarchy?